Another title fight coming right up, Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira. How do you see that one playing out?
Who?
Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira.
Who's that? I never heard of them. They fight? They fight in the UFC?
Lightweight division, yeah.
Lightweight division. I don't know. I've never heard of those guys before.
Well, Michael Chandler was from Bellator, just made his UFC debut, beat Dan Hooker. Charles Oliveira just beat Tony Ferguson.
I heard about that Hooker before. Is she still a hooker?
Helen Yee here with Eyes on the Game at MMA Masters, being joined by the one and only Mr. Colby Covington. Always great to see you. First off, how's Colby Covington Incorporated doing?
Colby Covington Incorporated, also known as CCI, has never been better. You know, we've been putting in a lot of work, you know, blood, sweat, and tears every single day. And I'm just thankful I actually have real coaches around me now that actually care about me and aren't just looking for paychecks, man. We're training extremely hard, and I've seen bigger games and made a lot of evolution in my MMA game than I ever seen in my entire career. So I'm excited to CCI, and I can't wait to see what is in store for us.
Yeah, the Schmo and I were watching you train, and you are looking really sharp. I know all your fans miss seeing you in the octagon. Have you been getting any offers recently besides, I know you talked about the Leon Edwards one, but besides that?
You know, I haven't formally been offered any fights yet. You know, that's facts. You can go to the UFC and ask them. They verbally said after the Woodley fight, hey, we want you to fight Jorge Masvidal, you know, Street Judas. And I verbally agreed. I said, let's do it, man. Let's do it I fought Woodley in September. I was ready to go in November, and they were trying to make it for November, December. George kept pushing it, kept kind of, you know, not agreeing to it. He's like, no, I don't want to. You know, he doesn't want me to end his career. And, you know, they were pushing it to January, February. And then, you know, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Usman calls him out, and they reward Usman with that fight. And it's just, it sucks, you know, because the guy refuses to fight me. He hasn't won a fight since he got 50-43, and all of a sudden he just gets to go fight for the title. So, you know, now he's going to be out of the equation. He's going to get beat by Usman, and, you know, there's only going to be one man left at the top of the man standing, and that's going to be me.
So how confident are you that after that title fight, you'll be getting the winner next?
You know, I can't say I'm extremely confident. You know, I don't know what the UFC is going to do. It's their business. You know, I have my business to run. They have their business to run. So, you know, I'm training hard for it. I know Marty Fake Newsman does not want to see me back in that octagon. He knows he got me on my worst night, and it was his best night, and he still shouldn't have beat me. I was beating him 3-1. Mark Not-So-Goddard saved his life, gave him life rafts. You know, I kick him in the liver. They call it nut shot. Oh, it barely touched his eye. He's faking an eye on the other eye, like selling and acting like he's a terrible actor. And then the early stoppage, man. Like, you know, I hit the ground. You know, he clipped me, but it was more of exhaustion, and I was just completely tired. But I was still in the fight. I shot a double leg. I was still in the fight. He's throwing strikes to the back of my head, and I'm intelligently defending myself. And then Mark Not-So-Goddard stops the fight. We've been fighting for 24.5 minutes. You're going to stop the fight with 30 seconds to go. So, you know, this chapter is unturned. The fans know that this fight needs to happen. There needs to be a round 2, and we need to run it back. If Marty doesn't want to fight me again, plain and simple, strip him and let me fight whoever's next in the division.
Well, speaking of fans and people who want that to happen, or we're talking about it, I interviewed Ben Askren last week, and he even told me that he thought you deserved that title shot or that rematch over Jorge Masvidal. What do you make of Ben, you know, just saying this stuff about you?
I mean, I think that says a lot in itself. You know, me and Ben have had a feud, and you know, he's always talked shit about me in the media, and we've exchanged not so nice words in the past. And the fact that he's coming out showing support for me shows, you know, that I deserve it more than anybody right now. And he knows that I've been putting in the work, and, you know, he knows that Jorge Masvidal is scared to fight me. And why, since he ran for me for 6 months and was scared to fight me, how do you reward that guy and give him another title shot? So it doesn't make sense. You know, I think the fans aren't happy with it. I think they're showing by their comments and their support of me that they want to see me back out there. They know I'm going to put on the best show inside the octagon and outside the octagon. So, you know, hopefully Ben goes out there and knocks out Jake Paul. I'm just sick of hearing him talking, man. He's just running his mouth, and there's no substance behind anything he says.
Well, I did want to ask you about that. Do you think that Ben will beat Jake Paul?
I think he will. I think he's going to, you know, just put that pressure on him. If he uses the clinch and just ties him up and just gets him tired, there's no doubt he has a better gas tank than Jake Paul, some little YouTuber. You know, the kid's a complete joke. He's an embarrassment to society. He's an embarrassment to the MMA and boxing world in general. And, you know, I hope Ben goes out there and shuts his mouth.
Yeah, what do you make of these YouTubers or people on social media, influencers, I guess, trying to become boxers or get into combat sports?
I think it kind of shows the way that combat sports is going these ways. If you have a big following, you have this YouTube draw, and you have, millions of followers and tons of engagement, interaction on your social media, then you're going to get big fights. People want to see it. Even if you're not a fighter and you're not a boxer, you can sell it like you're a big boxer, and that's what it's all about these days, just selling fights and getting people interested and wanting to see fights. And unfortunately, we're not rewarding the people that have worked their whole life and sacrificed everything to get to this point. We're rewarding these little kids that have a couple extra followers from YouTube and giving them these big paychecks.
Well, speaking of big fights, and in your division, a fight that just got announced, Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards. Who do you think wins that?
I think it's the fight of two losers, two guys that haven't fought in, 2 years? I think that's the last time they both fought, and they're both coming off losses, so it makes sense for them to match them up, two losers, see who's going to be the biggest loser, and, whoever wins that fight, there's only one way to go from there. They're going to get whooped the next fight, so let them get that fight out of the way. No one's caring about that fight. Those guys don't even fight, and they're not here to make this division great again, and, we'll see what happens.
Well, last time after your most recent victory over Tyron Woodley, I asked you in the post-fight press conference about Nick Diaz, because you and I have kind of spoken about that before. Where did that ever leave off?
Yeah, it left off like I remember 2 years ago he was ready to come back and fight. He asked the UFC to fight. They said, hey, we got Colby Covington here. He's the interim champ. And, at the time Woodley was hiding from me. He didn't want to unify titles. So I was ready to step up. And they made that fight. I verbally agreed to fight Nick Diaz at Madison Square Garden. He verbally agreed on one day, and then like a couple days later he backed out. He said he doesn't want to fight. So Nick Diaz is done, man. The guy's washed up. I mean, you can see in his body language. I heard from around the block that he's just partying every weekend. He's not training, man. He's doing ecstasy. He's doing all these drugs. He's drinking himself stupid every single weekend, and we know how much weed he smokes, so he doesn't have any brain cells left. And honestly, I'd feel bad fighting him, Helen, because I don't want to take the few remaining brain cells he does have left in his brain.
Well, I do follow you on Instagram, and I saw your picks for UFC 260, and you thought Stipe would beat Francis. What did you make of Francis beating Stipe and now becoming the heavyweight champion?
Yeah, that's the beauty of the UFC, man. It's so unpredictable, like no one's 100% better in the UFC. So all the people out there, all the fans that are hating on me saying, oh, you picked wrong. Dude, no one picks 100% right, like I still have a good track record of picking fights. I'm sorry to the fans that I let down and maybe you lost some money on me. I'm going to repay you in my next fight when I fight. I promise you I'm going to make all that money back. So what I make of it is, he looked good. He had a good game plan. He looked like his wrestling was improved. And he went out there and got the job done, so hats off to him. I think what we saw in Stipe is a guy that's a little bit aged. Those 2 wars with Daniel Cormier, I think those really played a big difference in him. He had those actually 3 wars with Daniel Cormier. So, Daniel Cormier is, the natty goat, and, he took definitely some time off Stipe's life. And, I think that Stipe probably should retire and, just focus on being a parent. He's made a great life for him, had a great legacy, and he's still the heavyweight goat.
Speaking of Instagram, though, I saw some tweets here and there about people saying that, did Kamaru Usman, was he liking your sister's photos?
Yeah, I guess he was liking my sister's photos. Come on, dude. Like, the guy's ugly. I mean, guy's got no charisma. He's got about as much charisma as a mop. So he's just trying to get any type of attention he can because he can't sell any fights with his mouth. He can't sell any fights with his personality. The guy has no personality. I mean, there's literally more personality on that wet mop over there. So, it's pretty pathetic. She's definitely not going to go for a guy that doesn't have any hair and lost his hairline from doing too much steroids. So, Marty, you're not going to get her. So just stop while you're not ahead.
I know we've also discussed WWE before. So where do those talks stand?
Yeah, those talks, they're still there. They're still fluid. Vince McMahon knows about me, but, I've kind of made it, a point to the WWE that I don't want to come back till fans come back. I'm not going to go into the arena with, an empty arena, during these COVID times. So, it doesn't make sense for me to go over there until fans come back. I put on a show for the fans. I know how to sell fights. I know how to, play the gimmick, play the characters. So, I want to wait till fans come back. Hopefully in the next 6 months to a year, fans will come back, and I'll slowly transition to there in a couple years after I win the belt and defend it a couple times.
And like I said, all your fans can't wait to watch you come back and watch you return.
I just want to tell my fans, I promise you're not going to be disappointed when I come back, and everything's going to be worth the wait. I know I've been out, I've been waiting for these big fights with Jorge Masvidal and Kamaru Usman, and I promise you I'm working hard, and I'm not going to disappoint when I come back to you all.